Hello, welcome to this monthly edition of IFRS Update. My name is Sebastien Harushimana. I'm the EFRAG chair. With the monthly update, I'm going to talk to you about what we've done at EFRAG in the month of December. But before that, I will just highlight some of the key decisions made during the month of November 2024. In November, EFRAG the EFRAG and FRB, that's the board that takes decisions from the financial reporting pillar, we discussed the ISB exposure draft on climate-related and other uncertainties in the financial statements, and we finalized the final comment letter which we sent to the ISB. On that exposure draft, EFRAG was welcomed the ISB's effort in providing guidance on what entities can do in trying to respond to users and other stakeholders' inquiries and concerns about the fact that when you look at sustainability reporting and financial reporting, users say, well, how come when we look at the financial sustainability reporting, entities disclose a lot of exposure, a lot of risks on their on climate and what they are doing with net zero transitions, their plan to that net zero transition. And yet, when you look at the financial reporting, the financial statements are almost silent about what is happening in the sustainability reporting. And the question is, well, should there be provisions? Should there be any numbers connected to link to that sustainability reporting? And the ISBs issued this exposure draft to try and respond to that concern. EFRAG was welcomed, as I said, this initiative. However, we found that the ISBs, the illustrative examples that the ISB provided were, most of them were too simplistic and did not reflect the reality. So our comment letter, we conveyed this message to the ISB, but we encouraged the ISB to really work hard in coming up with robust examples that reflect reality. We also cautioned the ISB that some of the interpretations that exist in IFRS requirements provide a clear guidance as to how an entity should reflect in their financial statements disclosures related to their climate risks. We found that some of the guidance in existing IFRS actually may need a standard setting, may need amendments to fully really convey the information on climate risks to which an entity is exposed. So, this exposure comment letter was sent to the ISB. EFRAG, FRAG and EFRAG FRB also worked on finalizing our comment letter on the amendments to IFRS 19, subsidiaries without public accountability disclosures. As you know, this standard IFRS 19 is a standard that responds to the concern about the reporting burden that entities face. As you know, within the European Union, the European Commission and the Eurogroup have requested some leeway, some reduction of burden, especially for subsidiaries and other non-listed entities. So for subsidiaries that are without public accountability, the ISB has issued this IFRS 19, which is welcome in Europe. And there were some further amendments to other IFRS standards that were not included in the initial IFRS 19, and therefore the ISB amended IFRS 19 to make sure that other amendments and standards are also catered for. both the FRTEG and the FRB worked on this and generally agreed with the ISB. The only thing that the only major concern that we raised is on some of the standards such as IFRS 17 and the future IFRS 20, which is going to be the regulated assets and regulated liabilities. The ISB has simply decided to not reduce any standards, which is counterintuitive and goes against the objective of the IFRS 19. So we've urged the ISB to reconsider that decision and to put in place a clear guidance as to how any future new standards will be considered in reducing for IFRS 19 entities that fall into the scope of IFRS 19. In November, we also published our own EFRAG discussion paper on the statement of cash flows. Why did we do this? We performed the research to actually, ahead of the ISB own project on the amendments of IS 8, and our research provides some key takeaways as to what are the European constituents' views on the importance and the usefulness of the statement of cash flows, and most importantly, where there is a need for amendments. And it's a very interesting discussion paper. We've published this out there, and we look forward to receiving your comments, which will then be fed to the ISB. Now, looking at the month of December, we worked hard, as you know, the so-called PPA, power purchase agreements. This is the exposure draft of contracts referencing nature-dependent electricity amendments to IFRS 9 and IFRS 7. As you know, European companies raised the issue with the ISB, and they came here to EFRAG and explained to us that there is an issue with these contracts because when an entity signed an agreement which spanned to 15, 20 years to purchase electricity, which is in most cases is green electricity, renewable energy, that is we in the contract there is a fixed price that is set for over that longer period. But given, if you look at the existing guidance in IFRS 9, it is very difficult to actually achieve the own use requirement because you undoubtedly the entity has to sell every now and again excess electricity generated by either wind, solar, and in some cases also water, and that's those sales. Looking at the existing guidance would actually render those contracts to fail the own use requirements. So the ISB has worked steadily fast to respond to this with these amendments, and we at EFRAG worked steadily fast in collaboration with the ISB to make sure that the final product was conducive to the European public good. And in December, both the FRTEG and the FR board met to approve the draft endorsement advice. We gave 20 days to our European constituents to actually work, provide comments, and actually today we approved, based on comments we received from European constituents, the final endorsement advice, which will go straight to the European Commission, and the Accounting Regulatory Committee will look into it and vote approve based on our endorsement advice. We'll then go to the European Parliament for 3 months of scrutiny and come back to the European Commission for the signing into law in the European Journal by the President of the European Commission. So this speedy endorsement process will allow European companies to apply these amendments in their half year financial statements of 2025. We also worked on our draft comment letter on the ISB's exposure draft on the provisions, the targeted improvements. With those provisions, while we found that the initiative of the ISB is laudable in clarifying, especially on the how some levies are accounted for, are provided for, we found that some of the guidance given in that exposure draft may perhaps lead to unintended consequences. And as such, we have requested the ISB to actually expand the consultation period from March to end of May. We wait for the response. I think this month, in January, the ISB will soon meet to actually decide on the EFRAG request to expand the consultation period to the end of May. And that will be it in terms of the key decisions made at EFRAG in December. Before I finish these highlights, I want to talk about the fact that we at EFRAG attended a webcast of ESAF meeting in December. This is the meeting with all selected world national standard setters that come to advise the ISB, and we commented and raised the issues from our European constituents on various of the ISB's projects. Now, I just wanted to highlight to you that we have some open consultations on which we need your comments from European constituents. We have a call for candidates on our EFRAG rate-regulated activities working group. So if you intend to be part of this European team that provides guidance, which ends up feeding into our influence to the ISB and comes back and feeding up into our endorsement advice. The deadline is 20th January, so you do not have it ends today. We might actually keep an eye on it. We will be extending that deadline to make sure that those who did not have the chance to apply to become members of our rate regulated activities working group can do so. So that will be on our website. We have our draft comment letter on the ISB exposure draft on provisions. The deadline for commenting on our draft comment letter is on the 25th February 2025. So please make sure that you comment on our draft comment letter. We have 2 online surveys going on for the subsidiaries without public accountability. That is IFRS 19, because the European Commission has requested EFRAG to provide its endorsement advice. And in this endorsement advice, we need to provide some elements, some comments from our European constituents to see how this reduction of burden would impact, whether it would impact positively or negatively to entities in scope within the European Union, including those entities that may have subsidiaries outside the European Union. So we have 2 surveys, one for users, another one for preparers. Please respond, because the deadline is the end of February of this year. We also have a draft endorsement advice on IFRS 18, presentation and disclosure in financial statements, because your comments will feed in our finalization of our endorsement advice to the European Commission to ensure that IFRS 18 can be applied in Europe on time. The deadline is 26 March of this year. We also have surveys for preparers of financial statements on rate-regulated activities for those impacted by the rate regulation. you should look at our survey, and the deadline is fast approaching to the 1st of March of this year. And finally, we do have the discussion paper, as I said, on the statement of cash flows. We would welcome your comments. The deadline is 15th of May. Your comments are important because they will ensure that we influence the ISB, and we take control of the direction of travel to make sure that the final outcome that the ISB would come up with in their own project is in line with the European constituents' views. And I should note to you that we have on IFRS 19, we have had a joint EFRAG and ISB session, and on that education session we have a summary report of it, which is now available on our website, and there is an online recording that you can follow on our YouTube channel. This is what I had to share with you for as an EFRAG update for the last month of December and November. I look forward to the next edition, which will then provide to you what EFRAG has been up to for the month of January. Thank you very much, and see you next time. Thank you. Goodbye.